Hello everyone, welcome to Redbus US channel. In this video, we'll look at the latest memo that President Trump has sent to a bunch of universities, to change the way they operate, some of those things around that, right? And also there are elements where it will impact the international students. So that's why we are covering this aspect on our channel, right? So this is what we'll cover in this video. We'll look at basically look at the summary, you look at each of the 10 points in that memo and how that 15% cap and the 5% per country will impact international students. And that's what we'll see. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. So what's the news, right? I mean, as you can see on the screen, this is the actual document that was sent by President Trump, Trump's administration rather, right, to a set of universities, about 9 universities. So we'll go over these document in detail and what it means for us, right? So if you look at it, this document was sent on October the 1st by Trump administration. It's a 10-point document and the title of it is Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education. So here compact means essentially an agreement. That's what they mean when they say compact here. And they've sent to about 9 universities. As you can see on the screen, it's MIT, University of Pennsylvania, Brown University, Vanderbilt, USC and Dartmouth College and UT Austin and University of Arizona. So these are the first 9 universities that they've sent. Again, we don't know the reason. They just say, they're just running kind of a trial and this may be rolled out to other universities as well. So let's look at each of them, what they mean in that, right? So the first point is they want to clearly say that it has to be merit based only. You can't give admission based on nationality or their sex or their race or gender, all sorts of things, right? It should be purely objective and based on that criteria. And, all the undergraduate students should be admission should be based on standardized tests like ACT or SAT or CLT, right? And where it's not available, then they could go for something like, for example, art and some of the music and all. They could go for other things as well where these things are not available. And again, the universities must share all this information, publicly, right? That's the idea. So just to give you a context, right, why this whole thing is happening is because there has been a lot of situations at US campuses where there have been regarding this recent wars that are happening. So Trump administration is trying to basically like curb down all of that and trying to put in some checks so that universities do not take a stance on all this. This is the idea behind it, right? And also they have anyways reduced the overall DEI kind of things around universities. So that's what they want to change the whole rhetoric around that. And, so that's the fundamental, idea behind it, right? So coming back, right, the second step is ideas exchange and protect campus rules, right? So they say that you have to have an opportunity to basically express your opinion, but again, it should protect academic freedom. There should not be an harassment or discrimination. And again, you can't have ideologies that are, encouraged by a certain terrorist organization. Again, they're primarily implying that this is more about the, war in Israel and these kinds of things, right? So that's the idea. This is where the whole thing actually erupted in Columbia University, where there has been snowballed into a bigger thing. So they want to just have all of these things addressed in this, right? So that's the second key element in this memo. And the third one is they say that you should not have any discriminatory practices for hiring of staff, right? You cannot really like hire somebody from a certain race, religion or sex, whatever, right? All of these should be basically objective driven and all of that, right? And there should be neutrality across the university in terms of administration. They cannot take any political stance, right? In the past, some universities have come out and they said, okay, we support this, we do not support this. So they really don't want to suppress that kind of things, and that's the idea behind this, right? And they say individuals in a capacity they can express, but you can't really like say that, oh, we as Harvard University can do this, we cannot do this, this is our stance. They don't want them to do that. And in terms of grading as well, they want to maintain integrity of grading. You can't really like bump up the grades or deflate the grades, so it has to be like basically truthful, and that's the idea. You can't really like rig the system. That's the idea. And again, you had to publish as a university this distribution of the grades and all of that, right? And in terms of equality, right, all students must be treated as individuals regardless of the race, nationality, religion, right? Again, there cannot be any discrimination because some things happened in some universities where a segment of students from a particular country or a religion, whatever, the belief system were, they didn't get whatever they wanted, right? And they've been discriminated. That's why these things have come in, right? And there cannot be any favoritism, all sorts of things. So that's the idea. And they say that they only recognize two biological sexes, which is male and female. So this is the concept of where they don't want to encourage any of the DEI concepts in the university. So that's what the thing is. And also there'll be only single sex spaces in local rooms and all. There is not another option. So that's the push again in that areas, right? And they say that the higher education is really costing a lot, so they want universities to actually cut down the cost. So eliminate wherever the waste is possible, wherever there is waste, maybe reduce staff in some areas, cut down some programs that are not relevant, and they want to freeze the tuition fee. Essentially, they are telling that okay, you freeze the tuition fee for the next 5 years, and also they want universities to publish the graduate earnings by program. So if you see in UK, they actually do publish this data, but in the US, not all of schools publish this data. While some of them do, but not all of them, right? So they want to make this as a practice as well. And if somebody drops out in the first term, they want them to get the refund also of the fee, right? And if there is a large endowment of greater than $2 million per student, they shouldn't charge fees for the hard sciences. That's what's saying. And also if you're from a military service member and took some credits in the military, they should all be accepted, right? Transferred, actually, essential. So these are some in the financial responsibility. So this now the next one, the 8th one, is the big one where it has an impact on the international students, right? So they say that of the total undergraduate student population in a university, the maximum that is allowed for internationals is 15%. Like let's say the student body of undergraduates at a university is 100 people. 15 of them can be international, not more than 15. But if you see, this number is actually far higher in some of the top schools, right, in Columbia and some of these schools where you see that the ratio of that is higher. That's why they want to bring in this thing. The second one is they also want to put a 5% cap per country. What it means is that, of this 15%, 5% can, you cannot have more than 5% from a country. Like let's say in 100, this is what this is the way I read, right? Out of this 15, only 5 can be from one country. You cannot have all 15 from one country or more than 5 from one country. I think that's the idea they're trying to emphasize. And all the admissions should be based on merit. You can't have any bias towards something because somebody's giving more money or and you cannot really base opinions based on their value system, right? And they encourage universities to screen out people who are against Americanism or their value system or the principles are right. And they want universities to comply with anti-money laundering. They have to declare all the foreign gifts they get from other outside of the country, right? So quite a host of things that are really meant to ensure that any funds coming from outside is not really taken advantage by universities and given admissions, or even encourage students who are actually supporting other terrorist organizations to be part of this, right? So that's what they're trying to do, all of these things. And also, all the students will be having a class on American civics, right? Essentially, history of America, right? All of that, they should have instruction on that as well. And whenever DHS or anybody asks, they should share the information. So that's the other ask. So these are pretty big things that are actually part of the memo. So we'll have to see what happens. There are some exceptions where they say, let's say if the institution is minority institution, like religious institution or a same-sex institution, then they can continue to do whatever they are doing and they can have their own preferences and all of that, right? And in terms of enforcement, they want to ensure that in the proposed, the dean or all of them sign and comply that, say that we're going to agree and follow these things, right? That's what they say, right? Again, if there is any violation, then they will not get funding for 1 to 2 years for the entire thing. And also they need to return the money that they have taken, and they'll annual third-party surveys. So the idea behind this entire memo, if you see, right, they're saying that if you follow these framework of things that we tell, then you will get preferential treatment in getting federal funding. They don't say you won't get it, but it's just you will be prioritized. I think that's the way they say it. Again, we need to see more details of this, but again, this is what the high level, what they say. There'll be preferential treatment to get federal funds. That's what they say, right? Now that we looked at the 10 points, let's look at the impact, right, on international students, this 15% thing. Just to get your perspective, on the screen, you see the data from Open Doors. This publishes data, for about all US universities, right? So there is about around 5 to 6%, right? If you see the historically from 2015, there are about 5.9% of students who are internationals of the 1.12 million. And now that's basically a decent size. It's not a lot, but again, it's a decent size, right? And of that, because the document primarily talks about undergraduates, right? Of that, 13% is actually internationals, right? So if you see out of 883 overall number, 342k is about undergraduates, right? And which is 39%, right? So you can see the graph also, the undergraduate trends are also like slightly falling and all, right? But irrespective of that, right, the point is 39% of the students are undergraduate. So all of these 39% of students will have an impact. So that is the fundamental idea, right? And what it can impact, who it can impact is mainly the countries that have higher number of international students in this undergraduate, right? Like for example, Asia sends about 60% of this number. You can see about 204k, right? And especially if you look at China, 87,000 undergraduate students, which takes about 25%, right? It's a very big number. And for India, it's about 36,000, is about 10.5, and Korea 5.2. Again, I'm putting out top three, right? But you can see if you are a student trying to study in Carnegie Mellon or Harvard or Columbia or MIT, right now you are really restricted if you can get in or not, because because we have this per country limit now, you may not be able to get the admission in your dream school, right, that you always wanted to study. So this is going to really have an impact on that, right? Especially, that's the key part, for students coming from Asia. That's going to be a huge one. And again, what will happen is when they put these kind of restrictions, students may not be willing to go to certain schools because they didn't get in the school that they wanted. Now, because of all these restrictions, the schools that have more than 15%, they're heavily reliant on these, funds from university, so they can't really run. Actually, they're going to reduce their operations. They risk the unemployment in the university campuses as well, right? Again, they plan to send these to broader set of schools after the initial round, so we'll have to see if the lawsuits come in. And also there is no mention of any graduate program per se in this, right? So could be added. We don't know how they will interpret it in the future, but at the moment it doesn't really tell graduate program, so we'll have to wait and see how this will pan out. So overall, it's going to have a tremendous impact on international students and their admissions, because already there have been a lot of things that have come in, and this will have an impact on students planning to study in the US. So we'll have to see how this will pan out and what lawsuits come in and all of that. So that's it, folks. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe for getting regular updates.